as I said, this COVID-19 actually is a perfect storm. In 2018-19, the trade war actually weakened the whole textile apparel market. It has become very political, and you know very well, the US and China every day is, calling each other for, changes in the policy. You don't give me that, I don't give you this. So we are the people actually in between that's actually, faced with all this style of conflict between the two sides. So as I said, it was very surprisingly, it came very suddenly. And in fact, at the beginning of the year, the market looks good. A lot of projects actually going to Vietnam and Indonesia and all these places because after the trade war, a lot of companies actually are moving out of China. So there's a lot of big project, that was going on. But in February, when this thing happened, literally everything stops. So the good thing is that Unitex for many years, we don't take financial support from the bank. We are a zero liability company. So with this incident coming, actually is a good time that we start planning internally how to manage the company. And as everybody say, cash flow is the key thing today. There's a lot of risk in the market, from buyer, from supplier, from all down the chain. Everybody is facing the risk. And as you know, majority of our goods are actually going to the US. And, a lot of company actually went Chapter 11, and a lot of these supplier actually are caught, in this type of situation. So for Unitex-wise, as I said, it becomes a good time actually internally to replan things. And in fact, in 2018-19, we really start adjusting a lot of things. In early 18, when we bought over the Wild Horse factory in China, which is one of the biggest producer of knitting machines, we start consolidating and refine the internal strategy of where we are heading. So that was preempt in a way. So when this COVID comes, it's just a continuation of what we are doing in 18 and 19, and to make it more compact in a way, so that we don't see how the market is coming out, for the next few months. But what we are doing now is actually to do everything internally to plan it well. Yeah. And I think one more important thing, in the COVID, business aside, everything is about health, about people. So I think it's a very good lockdown. If not, you'll never know. I tell you very frankly, actually, I was more worried about India than China. As you're right, the density of the population, maybe the health system not as good as Singapore or elsewhere. So I was more worried in India. I was calling my friends, my customer, how are you? Is everything okay? And every day the news shows so many people, moving in and out of the train station. So it was quite scary, and in the context of Singapore, I think although we are one of the highest in terms of, people who get the infection, but I think we are one of the lowest in terms of casualty. And the government has done a very good job. As you know, the foreign worker, we have a lot of foreign workers, and a lot of them also from India, and the government actually is offering all the health support, and all these things to everybody on an equal basis. So everybody is having a peace of mind, during this COVID-19. Yeah. In Asia, the majority of the textile owners are Chinese, in a way, let's say in Southeast Asia. So a lot of people are very surprised, how this tsunami and earthquake came at one go in such a short time, and I think a lot of the companies was in a shock because all the retailers actually was canceling orders in 24 to 48 hours. So we have a lot of discussion with our customers, big, small. Of course, I took more time talking to all the bigger ones, people who do a lot of big sportswear brands and all this sort of thing. And every single one, from a very small to the big one, everybody is facing the same problem, because the base issue is that nobody's buying anything. Everybody is trying to take care of the health. And the only thing that is very popular is the mask, the PPE, a box of masks for 50, in Singapore used to be about $4. It went up to $50, the kind of thing. And people queue out in the supermarket trying to buy things, to stock it up. So I think the issue during the COVID between the customer, I think the biggest problem is the fixed cost. Some of them maybe have 30, 50,000 workers. Some of them maybe they are smaller, 2,000 workers. But I think basically the problem, either big or small, they face the same. But you can see from the customers, those who are financially strong, they are able to sustain much better. And in fact, most of them actually start converting into going into making masks, making PPEs, and some of these big buyer like Uniqlo and all these also start placing more orders on all those healthcare products. And as you know, in Southeast Asia, February to June is the peak period for all textile companies. This is the time when they produce the fabrics, they make into garment, and they send to the US for the holiday season or to Europe. So imagine everybody was buying a lot of stock of yarn and everything, and then suddenly they say, I'm sorry, because of this whole issue, there's a lockdown. So the whole market actually came to a standstill. So basically to the customer is a testing of their own financial capability of how they want to solve it. So I think that is the part where the customer, everybody was trying to sort it out for the past 2-3 months. And to our customer base, I think today everybody is still around, although now we have more time to talk to each other on the Zoom. Last time everybody is so busy. So we have more time, we can talk about things. And then, in fact, also you create a different environment that people have to be very careful now. It's not about whether your T-shirt is $1 cheaper or $1 more expensive. So they have to look internally and say, what are they going to do moving forward? During this period, actually, starting late last month, I think was early May, some of the orders start moving in. And this order actually is to fill up the gap, between the stoppage time of February to May. So a lot of our customers are running a lot of our fleece machine. One of the customers running about 200 machines of fleece, so as they can build up, the capacity so they can deliver the product probably in September. So at this moment, it seems that everybody is quite busy trying to fill the gap that was broken, between February to May. And all these people, I think the delivery side is not a problem because they already stock up so much of their materials. So I think current moment, everybody is looking quite okay, going until probably around August, and September onwards, nobody knows what's going on. Yeah. In fact, just now I was saying when during the sudden stoppage time, and like India, like China, everywhere where all the workers are restricted on their movement. So certain workers are actually in the factory, some of them are back home and all this. So as I said, the only product during that period that people will buy at any price is the mask. So some of these big companies, they think, small little mask, 1 kilo of fabric, maybe you make so many masks, what kind of business is that? But what they discover is that the demand and supply, as I said, when nobody wants it, a box of 50 disposable masks is only $4. Now it's about 50. But the biggest issue in Southeast Asia actually is the melt-blown fabrics, the non-woven fabrics. There's a lot of masks in the market, but you don't know whether it's real or fake. In fact, when I worked with one of the big customers in Malaysia, then they discovered that, the government of Singapore wanted to buy maybe 8 million masks, 10 million masks, so that arises an opportunity. So we went to work together with the research center of Singapore called A-Star, who do all the testing. And it's good in a way because I think it's important to make sure that whatever you gave or you supply the mask, it has to be real because it involves the health of the people. So this company was able, it was, okay, they are big. So what they do is that they invest in the melt-blown, the fabric, just to make sure that they have that supply. So they give you a BFE of 95% and above, and during that time, the melt-blown fabrics from in China used to be about 40 to 50,000 RMB per ton. It went up to 700,000, so there was a lot of this type of issue, and I'm glad in a way that this company is able to look at it and say, there's a purpose, of doing that, for the population and also to support the government, because you want things that in millions and in a very short time, you need the big factories to come in and do it, and the government, because they supply these masks to the public, they have to be very sure, that all these products are really good, and not to wear it and get into trouble. Yeah, so this is one of the projects that we are doing. And in fact, in Unitex in Fujian, our Wild Horse factory, we also produce the KN95 machine. Yeah, so actually it's not to produce the machine, to sell in the market. It's because just to support some of the requirement, and things like that, immediate needs. And we cannot do a lot because, it's just a selling car without the petrol. Melt-blown fabrics, if you don't get the supply, you can sell 100 machines in the market, and everybody just look at the machine and then there's no material. So it doesn't complement each other. So that's why this big company actually, when they invested in the melt-blown line, it allow us to make some machines and supply it to certain places that need the mask. And that was some of the things that we've been doing together. During this period, last year, okay, it's still political again. The Europe side actually was withdrawing the GSP for Cambodia, and because of this issue, I think there was a bit of delay. So there is a shift, from Cambodia. A lot of people are moving their factories to Vietnam, and Vietnam, I think last month they already signed the FTA with Europe. So Vietnam, and you can see the country that has the least problem with the infection actually is recovering much faster than other countries. So Vietnam is one of them. They claim today that they still have zero casualty. Maybe because Vietnamese they like to wear masks even during normal days. So maybe that actually prevent the spread. So some of the countries that is active during that period of time, we are talking, let's say from February to April, basically everybody is at home. Whether you are, who you are or where are you from. So from starting from April to May, some of these countries started to open up. For example, Vietnam is one of them. Indonesia is gradually opening up because the COVID data from Indonesia is not high. So all these countries actually was starting to form up. It was only during this period that all these big issues goes to the west side. The US, the Central America. Maybe we started early, so we are able to recover faster. In fact, like China, although the period after Chinese New Year, from February to March, basically everybody is not allowed to leave their cities. So our factory basically was closed. But for us in Fujian, most of our workers are from local. So although you're local, but you're still not allowed to work. So if you look at the country that's active, I think Vietnam is one of them. Indonesia, Turkey has actually comes out pretty strong because of this GSP from Cambodia issues and everything. Bangladesh, I think not much of things going on. Although I think they can work more, but I think the buyer actually is not active. So basically you can have a big kitchen ready to cook, but there is no customer actually in the restaurant, so it doesn't make a lot of difference. So we talk about activities, maybe as I said, Vietnam, Indonesia, Turkey, North India, Calcutta was active, in April, or the big inner where people, I think they are developing something, and we have shipped quite a number of machines up there on an urgent basis. So I think basically, if you look at the whole places, east and west, so there's not much activities. But after May, Malaysia start getting active, they're opening up, China start opening up, but everybody is still trying to recover psychologically what is going on. Although the government has been pumping a lot of money, but I think most of this money now in the stock market, you can't believe, the equity market now is higher than, the pre-COVID time. So as you say, if the customer is not buying and the governments are pumping so much of trillions of dollars inside, so it probably goes to all these style of institutions. So at this moment, as I said just before, a lot of these big buyers now are trying to fill up the gap for the lost time from February to May. So going forward from May to August, I think they are quite busy, but not as busy as 2019. I think they're just trying to fill out some of the stock because they anticipate that the US, the Western temperature may be dropping very fast. So they need a bit of these, a lot of this type of thick material like fleece and everything. So it's good for us because fleece is a core item for Unitex. So we start to see a lot of this type of thing going on. But as I said, nobody knows after August, September, what is going on because of the US election in November. I think after this sudden stoppage of everything, the question in our mind is what if? Nobody can say what you want. It's only what if. I think you are absolutely right. India has always been a place that after Vietnam, after Indonesia, where do you want to go? You cannot be going to the outer world and all this kind of thing. Africa, a lot of people has tried during the the period where they have the free duty, and not many successful. Yeah. So, in fact, before this COVID, there was a strong interest, of understanding India more. So understanding the sense that, for example, like Uniqlo and all this, I think they open up a big office in New Delhi. Gap is actually pushing. I got friends who are asking me how to go to India, from Gap Hong Kong, what kind of flight should I take, where should I stay, So that was late last year, 2019, where they are trying to get into the market and, to explore what are the opportunities available in India. I totally agree on what you say about going on the upstream, or going on the integrated basis, that you have everything, whether you're big or small, you can give one-stop supply to anybody that comes to your factory. Because, and this is even more important now, because if you look at the way the buyers are going to change, the way they buy, after this incident, I think they have to feel secure. It's a stress test for everybody. First of all, you have to stress test yourself. Where am I going? What am I doing? And then you have to stress test your supplier and also your buyer. Because the risk of all this type of the whole value chain is very important because, as I said, the margin is not high. And every process of a textile process is actually buying something to convert. So everybody is supporting throughout this chain. So you have to look into it and say, let's say I'm a spinning mill. What am I going to do next? Cotton prices went down as low as 55 cents. I think that was in March, April. And the problem is not about the price. Nobody wants the cotton. Nobody wants to spin. Nobody wants to knit. Nobody wants to dye. So the thing here is that you have to do a stress test internally. Look at what are the possibility that you want to do. What is the status of India as a whole? How are they going to attract, the buyers, to be a opportunity, besides what they have in Southeast Asia. Vietnam is going to be very expensive. It's not going to be cheap anymore. The last time when I know Vietnam used to be labor cost $50 US, now you're looking at about 350 to 400 US. But the good thing is that they are, the Vietnamese are very hardworking people. and is able to sustain that kind of value, for what you pay for and what you get. So I think for India, I always think that India is a good second tier for China, because India have raw material, they have land, you have people, except water, but technology has been improving so much, that the consumption of water for dyeing and everything, I think has been reduced substantially. So I think this is a good opportunity now, for people to, instead of maybe also to invest, and expand on your, whether upwards or downwards, maybe a grouping will be even better. This is one thing I think is quite lacking in India, which I, over 30, 40 years, I look at China, uh, for example, Gopal, you got 400 sewing, embroidery machines. I have a 200-ton dyeing unit. Somebody have a 20,000 garment factories. Let's group together, and then we service the needs of the customer, So I think this is one part. First of all, you can reduce your capex investment, and then you can 1+1+1 equal to 5, So I think that's very important, and but maybe the culture, India is different. They prefer to be, everything within their own parameter. But if you want to do really big business, I think that is the only way, that you can actually expand in a very short period of time, and to give the confidence to the buyer that you have everything all in-house and you can control everything. Yep. Frank, this type of problem, is not something that, we can go in and say we can help you, because this is on a global basis, it's a pandemic, So the only thing that we can always help our customer, for example, like as I said, from May to August, suddenly the buyer give you a call and says, I want 3 million pieces of this product, So a lot of these big mills, medium mills, all their workers actually are not, all intact yet, because they don't know how the market is moving. So some of them did not get their workers back. I think this is one of the biggest problems in India now. A lot of people are back in their village and then they cannot find their way back to the factory. So, and this part of it is that we are monitoring all our customer base very closely. In fact, we have a quick response team. Actually, these 9 technicians actually went to Malaysia factory and helped this customer to convert, the machine so that he can quickly rush everything out. Any business today is a special bonus. Everybody will try to make sure you do it well. And also during this period of difficulty, if you are able to support your buyer, by delivering the goods to them, it enhances their reputation, and the confidence that they have, and I think there's a possibility of expanding business with them, So besides all these type of technical things and all this, there's that we can do, that we are able to do, besides that, I think there's not much, we can advise our customer besides, for example, one of my big customer in China, actually bought a land in Vietnam, which I advise him to go because the cost in China is so high. And to be frank, we don't know November who's going to win the election. If it goes the same way, we're expecting more problem between the trade between China and US. So people like them, they have been working in China for 40 years. To get out of China, Guangzhou, maybe to him, is something very difficult. But we managed to persuade them because I'm active in the market myself. So we know what is going on there. We know what the buyer is looking for. And also it creates a balance, for what they can do. And country origin is going to be a very important thing, going down the next few years. It can't be staying in one location and supply everything from there. Because as I said, textile getting very political. Yeah. Yes, I think you have a very good point, but the thing is that what does the market want, at this current moment? As you say, everybody's working from home, we are traditional industry people. You know, when for example, when the guys are working at home, you feel that something is not around, you know. And when you stay home too long, then maybe you lost touch or the momentum of what you are doing. I think for knitwear, over the years, if you look at the woven and the knit side, actually the knit side, the growth is always more substantial than the woven because application, technology, everything has been changing. If you look at some of the very big knitting mills, all over the world, technology is a very important part, for them. And technology is going to be the lead, going into the market where the buyer actually will look at you and will want to buy from you. The traditional knitting market is that we go to you and says that if you're selling for $1, I'm going to offer mine at 90 cents. There's somebody offer 80 cents, 60 cents, and then, there's no free lunch in the world. When you start bringing down the price and, you definitely have to save on some of the materials that you are going to use to produce a piece of apparel. So I think going forward, for India, actually, I think the technology part, you may say that I want to, but I think it has not reached that stage. China, they have to do it because their cost is so high, and then they balance it by investing into all these other areas that, average out the cost. I think as you say, initially, I think it's important for India side, the knitwear company, to look at their capabilities internally, and then to be very efficient, and to be able to communicate more, with the buyer so that you can satisfy the supply that they want. It's a pyramid. I think what India can offer is the big quantity, at the bottom. I think it only started about 2 years ago, but unfortunately now this thing actually breaks the whole momentum. Uniqlo is buying a lot, one period, like from Shahi and all these companies, over the past 2 years. I think the Far East Knitting in Tirupul, they are getting involved with Gap and all this type of thing. So I think, moving forward, I think any business is actually looking at what I can offer and what they want, and that is the most important part because it's not, India have the capacity, you have everything actually to take part of the China production, that they have been successful over the past 20, 30 years, and then bring it to India. And then I think this most important thing is that it create jobs in the market. India is a big population, so textile is one of the industry that use a lot of people, so I think this part of it, to me, I look at it as more important, than trying to do very fancy stuff, and also because of the limitation of maybe resources, like water, as I say, all these. That's why there's a constraint, on going into a very advanced stage of saying whether you want to make a very advanced piece of apparel for Lululemon or for Nike or anybody, So I still believe, after so many years in India that, it's an opportunity for all these mills to actually enhance their position, and get the first momentum running, So over the years, when you start moving, it's not like buying some technology from some market and says that, you pay a few $100,000 and I got this technology, I'm going to do that. Usually it doesn't work that way. It's a process that you have to move on. And then from there you learn, and then you understand your buyer's needs, and that's how you improve. Yeah. Personally, when Unitex started about 30 years ago, when I start buying my first factory and all this, we are hit with the Asia crisis. So I think business processes is a learning curve. So I went through a lot of all these style, problem, in the early days, when you're dreaming of doing something and then something just hit you, and then you have the SARS, the H1N1, you have the financial crisis in 2008, So after you go through this whole turbulence, you I think the biggest lesson learned is how you manage your company in terms of financial part of it. Regardless of what business, it can be in a computer, it can be anything. What I learned is that if you are prudent in the management of your financial part of it, you are able to weather, because banks are very practical people. They see that you are able to manage it, they have the confidence, they support you, you grow your company, you invest bigger. If you're not able to manage it, so yeah, you're not going to get the support. And this pandemic, people were asking when is the recovery and all this. Some say it's a V shape. I think the stock market is a V shape. It's a very big V shape now. Some say it's like a Nike swoosh. You go gradual up. Hopefully, I think that is good for everybody, because after the pandemic, everybody need to adjust. Because in any industry, the people is the most important part of it. How are you going to, manage the people, make sure they are healthy, make sure they have a correct environment to work. And because this pandemic, it's not a bullet or something. It's just in the air. You can be breathing, you can be walking, you can be anywhere. Then suddenly somebody tell you, say the check says that you're positive. So I think hopefully, we can have a gradual recovery. But as you know, the pandemic, whether the second wave is coming, that part nobody knows. But it looks like it's coming. It might be coming. You can see China now, they're having some problem up in Beijing. The US opening up so many states where they used to be green, now they turn to orange, now they turn to red. And in fact, those regions like New York, where they used to be hit very badly, now in fact they are recovering. So if there's a second wave and coming into the winter part of it, then I think it's an L-shaped recovery. But if you look at your crystal ball and look at it, and if everything is managed, because there's so much liquidity in the market, I think by June next year, let's hope that everything can be normalized. I don't expect anything to be good this year, because there's some big elections coming. Our our business is always about export, about supplying to the Western countries. So that's how I look at it. And well, I think at the end of the day, you're in the business to work with your customer. So I think to work closely with them, support them, understand each other's problem, and try to solve it. In fact, you enhance the relationship between as a supplier and the customer. And of course, staying back home for so long, the family relationship can be better. I used to fly, 7 months a year. This is the first time in my 30 years that I don't fly for 6 months. Yeah. So I think it's a good time to be at home. Look at the children. Yeah, so that you don't, after 20 years, suddenly you see all your kids getting married and you don't know what's going on.